Grab yourself a cuppa, get yourself settled down. Don't know how long this is going to be, but it might be quite a long one. I might rattle through quite quick though. So, but hopefully you will get this. Okay, you are a living battery. You're a living voltage machine, and that voltage determines how healthy you are. High voltage generally means good health, and low voltage, not such a good health. Okay, this is what we're going to talk about in this video, and how that relates to a human person, okay, rather than just kind of physics and chemistry, okay, because physics and chemistry, well, they don't explain people, but we need to understand physics and chemistry to be able to understand biology, okay, so it all ties in together. Okay, we're bringing all sciences together, and it's human. Okay, all right, so I just want to start off on some things that are relatively common that hopefully we all understand. Okay, you may have experienced some of these things yourself. So you may have gone to hospital at some point to have an ECG. Okay, so the doctors or whoever it is, nurses maybe, put sensors on and around your chest. Okay, stick some wires to those sensors and plug it into a machine, and that machine and those wires and those sensors find out basically what your heart is doing. Okay, and it does that through sensing the electrical and the magnetic properties of what your heart is doing. So it's looking for a wave. Okay, so it's looking for certain actions of the heart at certain times. Okay, and does it all time together correctly. Okay, so that is one way in the modern world that we use voltage to measure health. Okay, see, my heart is actually my main voltage, one of the easiest ones to measure. Okay, it produces a large field of energy from it. Okay, it's measurable up, I think, up to about 1.8 meters. So I'm about 1.8 meters tall, so it's measurable about 1.8 meters out in front of me and 1.8 meters out behind me, albeit it will be really, really tiny and hard to measure at that point. But the closer I am to the skin and the source of that energy source, the bigger the signal, the easier it is to find. Okay, there is also EEGs, which is electroencephalograms, which is a way of measuring brain waves. We also use MRI and fMRI on our bodies, okay, as diagnostic tools to find out essentially what's going on in our brain or somewhere in our body. And that is a way of using, it's called magnetic resonance imaging. So they get a magnet and they basically is vibrating, okay, and it jiggles all the atoms in your body. Okay, we'll get more onto that later, and it aligns them, okay, and then it creates a picture from that. So it's a real-time imaging system. So it's cool. It's pretty cool stuff. Okay, so that's ways that we use electricity, voltage, and magnetism to see what's going on inside us, because we are producing electricity, voltage, magnetism. Okay, we're producing them, we are emitting them out to the world. Word hertz. Okay, hertz just means cycles per second. Okay, so how many times per second something does something. Okay, we're going to talk about my heart because that's a nice easy one to talk about. So if my heart is beating at 60 beats per minute, it is beating at 1 beat per second. 1 beat per second is 1 hertz. Now, if I was going out for a walk and my heart rate goes up to 120 beats per minute, so that means my heart is beating twice per second. That means the hertz is, there's 2 hertz to my heartbeat. And now if I was to run, and I'd have to run pretty fast to do this, and get my heart rate up to 180 beats per minute, that would be 3 times per second. That is 3 hertz. Our brain, again, works on a frequency band. Okay? And we've kind of deduced this through ECGs and MEGs, so magnetoencephalograms rather than electroencephalograms. to decipher, you know, what's going on with our brain at certain stages of our day and of our life. Okay, so sleep, we go into theta or delta brainwave patterns. Okay? So these are very slow brainwave patterns. So delta brainwave patterns are 0.5 hertz up to 4 hertz. Theta brainwave patterns are 4 hertz up to 8 hertz. We then move into alpha brainwave patterns, which is 8 to 12 hertz. We then move into beta brainwave patterns, which is where I am right now, okay, and probably where you are right now. It's our day-to-day living kind of frequency. It's our conscious thought, it's our doing stuff brainwaves. That is, let me just remind myself, where do I get to? 12 to 35 hertz. And then we have gamma brainwaves. Okay, and gamma brainwaves are basically 35 and up. Okay, I've seen different things where you might get up to a couple of hundred hertz, and I've seen a couple of other things where even 5,000 hertz has been measured. Now, I don't know the accuracy. I don't know exactly if that's true or not, so don't quote me on that stuff in terms of gamma brainwaves, but it's definitely 35 plus. Okay, and I'm not going to give you an upper limit because I don't know. All right, in terms of gamma brainwaves, but it's definitely 35 plus. Okay, and I'm not going to give you an upper limit because I don't know. All right, so these are quite widely known. Okay, so we can measure frequency of our heart and our brain really quite easily. We see it all the time. Okay, and now I'm going to go on and explain how that works in the rest of our body, which is pretty cool. Okay, alrighty, just tick off what I've done. I'll delete that bit. You and I are humans, I hope, I think, probably. And what are we made up of? Okay, we are made up of systems, okay, maybe like the digestive system, the nervous system, my urinary system, so my kidneys and my bladder, my cardiovascular system. So they are groups of organs involved in the same kinds of tasks. So my lungs and my heart work together to get oxygen all the way around to my body. My digestive system works to, so my stomach, my pancreas, my liver, my gallbladder, my small intestine, my large intestine, my appendix, they all work together to extract stuff from food. Okay. Yeah, I will. Anyway, so we have systems, and then we have organs. So that's the individual organ itself. So we have heart, we have lungs, we have small intestine, large intestine, okay, and we're not considering them as part of a system. Each of those organs are made up of groups of specialized cells, okay, specialized tissues, sorry. Each of those tissues are made up of cells. Each of those cells are made up of atoms, okay, essentially. We've probably skipped a couple of smaller stages out there, but everything is made out of atoms in my body. I have in my body, again, depending on what you've read or seen, somewhere between 50 trillion and 100 trillion cells in my body at any one time. Somewhere between that, okay, is a pretty big range, okay, so one's double the other, but you get the idea, it's a lot, okay. So out of those 50 trillion cells, let's say it's 50 trillion, how many atoms do I have? The number is literally mind-blowing. I couldn't even guess. It is masses and masses and masses of atoms. So many. Okay. Now, what we know about atoms, okay, they all have a nucleus made up of protons and neutrons, okay, and when you get into atomic physics, a bunch of other stuff, okay, and they have electrons, okay, and electrons is kind of where this story is. So electrons and electricity, voltage. Okay, we've already mentioned frequency and hertz. We need to now add in atoms, electrons, and electricity. So this needs a diagram. Whiteboard. Okay, so let's say we're looking at my heart. my heart does this. Okay, so right ventricle pumps, left ventricle squeezes, right ventricle, left ventricle, right ventricle, left ventricle. Okay, so for a heartbeat, I need right and left ventricle to squeeze. Okay, and they do that separately. They don't both do it at the same time. That is, oh, dodgy line, undo it. That is 1 cycle of heartbeat. You can also call that 1 hertz if my heart is doing 60 beats per minute. So that's at 60 beats per minute. Okay. Now, I come from an electronics background, okay, engineering. So what we're going to do now, well, this is called rectifying, okay? And this is not necessarily. Okay. So I'm going to just do this. Okay, so all the stuff that was under this line before, I've now put over the line. And what we do in electronics is we rectify a sinusoidal wave, so a wave form, a voltage, and we take an average. Okay, that there is my average voltage of my heartbeat. If I speed my heartbeat up, okay, and maybe my heartbeat's a little bit harder, what happens, let's do this, okay, I will get a larger amplitude and I'm getting a faster result. Now I'm going to rectify that one as well. So it'll look like this. Okay, you get the idea. Okay, so my average voltage is up here. Average voltage. Okay, let's say it's doubled. Okay, couldn't say for sure. I don't know the exact maths on that, but let's say it's doubled there. Okay, so my average voltage, because I've done some exercise, my average voltage of my heart rate has at least doubled. Maybe it's trebled, maybe it's quadrupled, who knows? That's how it works. So brainwaves have frequency, therefore they have voltage. Everything with a frequency that vibrates, this happens. They have a voltage. They have an amplitude, okay, which is this line here, okay, up and down, okay, amplitude. And they have an amplitude, they have a frequency, they have a voltage. Anything that travels with a wave, okay, also has magnetism. Okay. You may have heard of the electromagnetic spectrum, EMS, electromagnetic spectrum. So let's down here we have 0 hertz, okay, basically nothing, and all the way up here we have gamma rays. And that is like serious radiation, stuff from quasars, stuff from space. Okay. Doesn't really exist on Earth. And there's a nice big line. I'll just draw this, okay. Somewhere in the middle-ish, we have visible light. Yeah, it's really hard to write with a mouse. Visible light. Here we have UVA, UVB, UVC. You might not have heard of that one, but it basically doesn't get through the Earth's atmosphere, so we tend to ignore that one. But UVC, UVA, UVB, UVC. We then go into X-rays. See, this is not to scale. Okay, X-rays and then gamma rays. Okay, down here we have infrared. Okay, of varying degrees. Okay, so this is red on the visible light spectrum, and this end would be violet, blue, the blue end. Infrared, we also then have like radar, microwaves. I'll just do the microwaves. Okay, radio, all this stuff is kind of down here. So it's all the same. So my brainwave is down here. The words that are coming out of my mouth are between 20 and 20 kilohertz. So 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. That's way down here. It is still an electromagnetic wave. Okay, it's just quite low powered. I mean, this is high power and this is low power. This is why people think, okay, a lot of scientists go, right, yeah, TV, radio, microwaves, they're less powerful than visible light. Guess what though? Visible light has been around since, well, before the sun. So 4 billion years plus, maybe since the beginning of the universe, which is maybe 14 billion years or so. That's been around forever. Now these don't really exist that much in nature. Right? Suns don't really produce them. The Earth doesn't really produce them. Maybe in microdoses, okay, short, tiny little bursts. Now, our world is full of them. Constantly. Wi-Fi, radar, microwave, okay, all the TV signals, radio signals. Constant, constant, constant. Okay. So now we need to talk about how voltage affects health. Now this is from the work of Dr. Jerry Tennant. Where he got it from, I'm not quite sure. It may be from other work of other people also. So let me just pull this up. There it is. So he's found, okay, or whoever, okay, we've got down here. Okay, so this is the pH scale. Okay, so pH links in with voltage. A pH of 14, and this is done in millivolts, okay? A pH of 14, which is very, very alkaline, that's like super bleach, okay, is minus 400 millivolts, okay? A very tiny amount of volts, okay? But it's quite massive when we're talking about our body. And the other end, okay, acid of like 0, okay, super acid, okay, eats through anything. That's a voltage of plus 400 millivolts. So we've got this scale of minus 400 of alkaline to plus 400 of acid. Now humans, we live in the middle there. Okay? And you can see from this diagram, if you haven't looked already, down here is that scary word, cancer. Okay, basically anything below this is death. Anything below that is death. Okay, this scale does go up this way, up to about 8, nearly 9 cell in the cell pH. It goes up to nearly 9, which is minus 100 and something millivolts. We don't really need to worry too much about that. So as we go down here, we're going more acid, and as we're going up here, we're becoming more alkaline. Now humans, normal adults, minus 25 millivolts. So we need to be very slightly alkaline to remain healthy. Okay, we want our cells, this is more important, we want our cells to remain alkaline to be healthy. If we get injured or sick in some way, what will happen, or what should happen, is that my cell voltage at that injury site will jump, and it will go to minus 50 millivolts until it is repaired. That might include tingling, that might include warmth. So these are physical sensations you might have when you get an injury. Okay? It might be pain, might even be pain. Okay? But that is your cells basically taking away any dead stuff. So it's looking for these voltages, okay, and these pHs, and going, right, that's dead, let's get rid of it. And then it's trying to then rebuild healthy cells at this voltage. Okay, and that takes energy. Okay, it requires certain building blocks. Okay, so we need atoms to be in there. Okay, certain particular atoms to be in there, and electrons to be in there, to make this voltage the correct place for an environment for healing. So if you're injured, bam, we need this. Okay, this is chronic sickness. long-term pain. Okay, long-term pain, you're down here. Okay, you can see even above pH of 7, where we're still in the minus voltages, tired and sick. Okay, so that might be colds, constant fatigue, flu-y type stuff. Okay, you're going to be sick regularly. The more you go down here, the more serious the condition you get. Down here, cancer. So we need to take care of our voltage. That's what this is all about, taking care of our voltage. Now, another thing, and this pissed me off last year, excuse the language, okay, is I went and did a little bit of research on pH of certain things, okay, in our diet, things that are seen as healthy and or perhaps not so healthy. Where is it? Let's come back. Yeah, done that. Yeah, the alkaline diet. Okay, coming back to this, okay, this is, if we go up the scale here, we are going more alkaline, and if we're going down the scale here, we're going more acid. I just want to cover the alkaline diet a little bit here because it's not quite true. So I did a little bit of reading on this, okay, and just found out what the pH of some of the important minerals in our diet that keep us healthy. Okay, so what do we commonly take as supplements? Magnesium. The pH of magnesium is somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. Okay, and that is below, if we were looking back at that pH scale, that is below cancer. Okay, it's quite acid. It's not really acid, but it's acid. It's not alkaline. Zinc. We know we need this for our immune system. We know we need it for a bunch of other stuff going on in our body. Okay, we need it to keep us alert. Okay, it wakes us up. It's an energizer. Zinc, pH, roughly 5.8. Oxygen, interestingly, pH of oxygen is 7.4. If I go back to here, 7.4, normal adult. That's there. Oxygen is there. So we need oxygen in our cells to get the right amount of voltage in a cell. Okay, so we know oxygen is key. That's kind of obvious. We breathe. Okay, well, that's what it's one of the most important things we do. You know, you can only survive a few minutes without oxygen. So we can see that the alkaline acid diet is maybe not quite as true as what we think it is, because loads of important things that we need in our diet, vitamin C is called ascorbic acid, protein, otherwise known as amino acids, DNA, acid. So there's all these things in our body that we need to be acid. So what we actually need is not necessarily an alkaline diet, although maybe a predominance towards an alkaline diet. It actually needs to be a bit more balanced, because we need to make sure we get both sides of that coin. Because there's certain stuff in acids, there's certain acids we need that you might not be able to get quite so much of in an alkaline diet, right, that are definitely required. Slightly an aside to the story. So voltage, we can see now, is very, very important to our health. We measure it with EEGs, ECGs, MRIs. Okay. We can measure the voltage, the energy level of our heart up to a distance of about 1.8 meters away. But the thing is, every cell in my body is doing that. It's just my heart creates a very large, obvious signal that can be picked up from equipment, okay, quite easily, rather than, you know, other technology that maybe doesn't even exist yet. So one thing that annoyed me about COVID last year was doctors, yeah, doctors coming on TV with their mask on, with the oxygen monitor on their thumb, okay, or finger, or wherever it was, okay, and it measured their oxygen level as 99 or 100% while they were breathing through a mask. Fine, good, we want it to be high, but that only measures how much oxygen is in your blood It doesn't tell you how much oxygen gets to your cell, which is where it's actually important. Yes, you need oxygen in your blood, but it needs to be able to travel through a cell wall, i.e. the capillary wall. It needs to then be able to travel into a cell and do what it needs to do in a cell. And then the carbon dioxide needs to be filtered out back into the blood and back into the lungs and then back out through our mouths. So measuring oxygen levels in your blood is only part of the story. It doesn't tell you how much oxygen gets to a cell, and it doesn't tell you what the voltage of a cell is. So someone might have normal blood oxygen levels. Doesn't mean their cells are getting oxygen. It doesn't mean they're healthy. It's one measurement out of countless measurements that could be taken for somebody's health. Okay. But hey, makes sense, right? If you start looking at this stuff and you're looking at cell voltage, that's what's more important. Okay, I need alkaline things to get into my cells. I also need acid things to get into my cells, but I generally need my voltage of my cell, my 50 trillion cells, to be at normally minus 25 to minus 30 millivolts, and then when it's damaged, at least minus 50 millivolts, so that it can heal. And if it doesn't do that, and I have a lot of dead or decaying and dying cells, it's going to drop, and I'm going to get sick, and I'm going to get tired, and I'm going to be long-term in pain, unless I can get my cellular pH level back up. Oxygen is one way. Okay, so stuff like Wim Hof, okay, where you over-oxygenate, that is going to increase your cellular voltage. Why? You pump your body full of oxygen, okay, you over-oxygenate. And what that does is it forces any CO2, which is acid, out of your cell. Because CO2 might get stuck in your cells. It might not make it all the way back to the bloodstream for whatever reason. So if you hyperoxygenate, and you do have to be careful with this, okay, but if you hyperoxygenate, you are ensuring oxygen gets to more of your body than did before. And if you do that regularly, you are much less likely to get sick, because you are getting rid of an acid from your body, carbon dioxide. Do you think carbonated drinks are any good for you? Sugar, PS, by the way, acid. Okay, that's going to drive your cell voltage down. The more sugar you have, the more alkaline you've got to have to balance things out. Anyway, let's talk about this for a moment. So this being chemicals, essentially. So hormones, neurotransmitters, vitamins, minerals, all of that kind of stuff, okay? Even my cells, okay, but let's focus on those things. Bacteria, viruses, okay? All of these things are going to have their own energy signature, okay? Well, I don't know, let's say it looks like that, okay, whatever it might be, okay? It's going to look all, it's going to be all over the place, okay? It's not going to be a smooth wave. This wave is what my body is looking for. It's not going, oh, that's a dopamine. I'm going to send that to wherever it needs to go. It's looking for this energy signature, this voltage pattern, this chunk of this is a chunk of information. It's looking for that chunk of information. It's not looking for dopamine. It doesn't give a flying F what dopamine is. Your body doesn't care what dopamine is. It's looking for an energy signature. It's looking for this pattern. Let's say this is a bacteria, okay, or a virus, okay, and we don't want it in our body. That bacteria might land on my skin, be eaten, okay. It is amongst, unless, I don't know, there's maybe a few hundred bacterial things in there, okay. My body needs to know as fast as possible what that bacteria is. It doesn't want to wait for that bacteria to somehow come across a white blood cell, for that white blood cell to somehow recognize what it is, to send a message all the way back to the spleen and the thymus and go, right, guys, I need you to create this particular kind of B cell. While we're waiting, let's get some T cells on the way and we'll hammer the shit out of it. Because by that time, that might have been a few hours, and which time that bacteria has proliferated. If I work on frequency, maybe in that time, and these messages are going to be happening, bam, instantly. Recognize that. I see that frequency. I know exactly what that is. I'm going to send a message instantaneously to my spleen, instantaneously to my thymus, instantaneously to the rest of my immune system. All right, guys, we need this. We need it here. We need it now. Okay, we're going to kill that bacteria. Then you don't get sick. But if we think of it going, oh, this bacteria comes into contact with this cell and this cell and this cell and this cell, and by which time we're sick already. It's too late. Okay, and then we're in an uphill struggle. But if my body does this, which is what it does, then I'm much more likely to either not get sick or get better a lot faster, because my body is looking for a frequency pattern, not a bug. It's not looking for a bug. Okay? It's not even looking for a vitamin C. It's not even looking for a zinc. It's looking for a frequency pattern. And if my body doesn't understand frequency, then it's fucked. This is, I'm going to go slightly off key here. This is what homeopathy is about. Okay, I'll just expand on this bit a little bit. So let's say we've got this bacteria going on. Okay, and that's the frequency pattern of bacteria. So my understanding of homeopathy, and it might be slightly wrong, okay, but my understanding of homeopathy is this. Okay, so I've got this bacteria. What I want to do is match the frequency, but of a much lower amplitude. Okay, so this one down here is supposed to be the same as the one above, but much smaller. Okay, and I've drawn it much tighter in. Okay. Okay, so that is supposed to, so this bottom one is supposed to match the top one. So this is now, let's say that's dangerous. Okay, that is a potential threat. That's a threat to my immune system. That's a threat to my body. Still a signal. It's a threat. Okay, that might make me sick. Okay, it might make me vomit, might make me poo. Okay, it might give me a rash. It might damage my organs. Whatever. That's a real threat to my body. This, however, because its voltage is much smaller, is not a threat. But the signal is the same as the bacteria. And that is a signal to my body, go, ah, I know what that is. That's a lot like that. It's not a threat, but it's just reminded me that's what I need to do when this kind of thing comes around. So when that frequency comes around, I know exactly what to do. The other way I think homeopathy works, and I'm not going to draw it in, I'm going to clear this. Okay. I'm going to draw it as a regular wave. Okay. So this, let's say this is a bacteria again, has a specific voltage, a specific frequency. What we can do with these is introduce something that is the opposite. So it has the exact same frequency, it has the exact same voltage, but it is directly opposite. When you combine these two things together, it would look, he says, drawing a very bad line. Let's undo that one. That's supposed to be a straight line. It would look like that. So if I combine those two waves together, zero output. So if something bad comes into my body, I essentially need my body to switch it off, and it can do that by doing this, or with homeopathy. This might be the way it works. So there's two ways homeopathy works in my mind. Okay, it introduces a thing with the same frequency but much smaller, so that the body recognizes an energy signature. So the energy signatures cancel each other out in this case. So rather than the body going, I recognize this thing, it goes, okay, I'm going to add something that is the opposite of this bad thing. This is more how our body works. It is a lot more fun thinking of it this way. Okay, it's actually a lot more treatable when you think of it this way. Ways to increase your cellular voltage. Well, I've already mentioned one. Okay, Wim Hof. Okay, not necessarily Wim Hof, but breathing techniques. Okay, so deep breathing usually. Okay, increase the amount of oxygen that makes it to your cells. Okay, there are various different ways of doing that. You might go into pranayama, it's like yogic kind of breathing. You might go to Wim Hof, you might go to some sort of other app that teaches you how to different ways of breathing. Okay, breathing is super important. Use the nose. Okay, that's important when it comes to your capillaries. Okay, again, which work on electricity and magnetism. If not, the red blood cell wouldn't make it down. Okay, let's say that's a red blood cell and that's the size of the tube it's got to fit down. A red blood cell has to fit, is bigger than a capillary. A capillary requires magnetism to pull a red blood cell through, because a red blood cell is larger than the capillary is. Okay, so we need magnetism to pull that through. Nitrous oxide, okay, which we produce when we breathe through our nose, but not so much through our mouth, helps the cell walls of a capillary to open, okay, to help them expand. So it's a muscle relaxant. So breathing through your nose relaxes your muscles. It relaxes all muscles, including your heart, including your blood capillaries, so it's going to decrease blood pressure. Bam. Okay, maybe blood pressure. Breathe through your nose more often. Anyway, I'll get back to it. Okay, so red blood cells, they've got hemoglobin in. Hemoglobin, iron, magnetic. Okay, that's what oxygen attaches to in the red blood cell. So we've got a red blood cell full of a magnetic substance getting pulled through a hole that's too small for it, okay, via magnetism. Voltage and magnetism are intertwined. Voltage, frequency, and magnetism are intertwined. Without good voltage, your blood does not flow through your capillaries very well. Guess what you're going to have? Cold hands and feet. Who's got those? Maybe your voltage is too low. Maybe your oxygen levels are not high enough. Maybe you don't breathe through your nose frequently enough. Maybe you mouth breathe a lot. Maybe you have blocked up nose all the time and that's why you mouth breathe. Ways that you can increase your voltage. A diet high in antioxidants. Okay, now antioxidants are spare electrons. So antioxidant, if you think antioxidant, think electron. It's the same thing. Okay, they are just spare. Okay, they are free to leave. Okay, so let's say you eat some blueberries, they're naturally high in their antioxidants, okay, in free electrons. They've got a bunch of extra electrons on there that are easily withdrawn to go and attach to a free radical. Okay, so something that might cause damage. A free radical. Okay. Basically, a free radical is something that is missing an electron. So free radical, missing an electron, and a antioxidant, just remember the word, has extra electrons. We need to make sure we're eating quite a few of these to cancel out a lot of these. Cool. So healthy diet, kind of obvious, but we need extra electrons to cancel out free radicals. Help you stay healthier. Not necessarily alkaline or acid, but you definitely want to steer clear of processed food, okay, and head more towards natural, locally grown, seasonal products as a kind of general rule, or a predominance towards that. Obviously, you don't always get that in shops. It's not always easy to do that. Other ways to increase your voltage. Exercise, okay? Moving your muscles and moving your bones and your bones hitting stuff, okay, I'm talking like walking here, creates an electrical current. Okay? So you hit a bone, you are creating an electrical current. Okay, so you're bending a material that is magnetic in nature, and let's not forget we've got blood flowing through there. Okay, so anytime you've got blood through, when you've got, I forgot to mention this, okay, your capillary is a bit like a wire, okay, and your red blood cell is a bit like an electron. Okay? So we've got current passing through a wire. Anytime you pass current through a wire, you are going to create a magnetic field. So not only does a capillary have mechanisms within it itself to pull a red blood cell through, it's also creating a magnetic field to help pull and push that red blood cell through. If you didn't have magnetism going, your capillaries would just burst. You'd probably get some varicose veins or spider veins. Is that going on for you? Not enough oxygen. Maybe a bit too acid. So we need all that stuff going on. Now, where was I? Exercise. So when you bash a bone, okay, or joints kind of hitting together, you're going to create an electrical current. The more you exercise, the more electrons you create, the more energy you have. The more it seems a bit backwards, right? The more you exercise, you think the more tired you get. The more you exercise, the more energy you get. You do need to have a good diet, but the more exercise you do, the more energy you get. Exercise releases electrons. Let's just go with that. We also need sunlight. Okay, sunlight again helps our body to produce and release electrons. Okay, we need it for vitamin D. We need that for melatonin. And melatonin is an antioxidant, so we can create our own antioxidants, electrons, by being out in the sun, by creating melanin, by creating melatonin, which in turn creates serotonin, which makes us happy. Our tissues, bones, muscles, fascia being a very important one, even DNA, all rely on frequency. Anything with frequency has voltage. Anything with voltage has a magnetic field. We know that because we measure the heart's electrical and magnetic properties when we measure them in hospitals. And that's one of the things we're measuring in hospitals. Our body is just doing that on a much tinier scale than the heart is. The heart is easy to measure. An individual cell is going to be infinitely hard to measure. Okay? It's going to be really the measurements are going to be tiny. But on a grand scale, when we look at the heart and when we look at the brain, we can measure those things. So hopefully that answers the question of why is voltage so important to your health? You get low voltage in your cells, okay, and it might just be a particular group of cells. Generally, you might be pretty healthy. But a particular group of cells, they're not getting oxygen. They're not getting the alkaline. They're not getting the higher pH stuff for some reason. There is some sort of block around it, some sort of injury, some sort of thing going on in one particular area, or maybe 2 or 3 particular areas. And whatever you need to repair that area cannot get in for some reason. Okay. And the voltage in that area drops and drops and drops and drops and drops until you get sick. So you might be healthy in just about every area of your life, but if there's some sort of blockage, some sort of energy barrier to an area of your body, it might not be able to repair. It might not be able to increase its voltage. But you've got to do what you can, okay, for the rest of your body, if nothing else. So that might be breathing, that might be exercise, that might be eating the right foods, that might be walking barefoot on the beach and getting electrons from the earth, okay? Didn't mention that one. The earth, pretty damn big thing, okay? Full of electrons. And as we've talked about, electrons are antioxidants. Same, different name. Right? It's the same. Okay, maybe they call them antioxidants because saying it's an electrons would scare people. Don't know. Maybe that's why. Who knows? So that's why electricity and voltage is so important for human health. I'm just going to play a video from Dr. Bruce Lipton, who, if you're interested, might be another place you want to learn some of this kind of stuff from. So if I go back here, this guy. Okay, so I've just selected a small section of a video from Bruce Lipton.
That's from Albert Einstein. We see people as physical particles and machines, but that's an illusion because what we are interacting waves. That's why one person can affect another person just by being in the field. Every cell in your body has a minus voltage on the inside and positive voltage on the outside. Every live cell is a battery. Every cell has about 1.4 volts, not too much. 50 trillion cells in the body times 1.4 volts is 700 trillion volts of electricity in your body right now. And with training and meditation, you can focus this energy called chi, and you can use that energy for healing.
Boom. He realized that there is more to life than chemistry. There is more to biology than chemistry and physics. He realized that the power of thought and the power of belief is more important than all of that stuff. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, way back, that our brain is a frequency generator. It works somewhere between 0.5 hertz and, well, we don't quite know how high gamma goes, but let's say beta 35 plus hertz, okay? So it works in that range, okay? So we know frequency has voltage. So what you think matters. What you think about your health matters. If you think you can't get healthy, then you can't. If you think you're going to remain sick for a long time, then you will. Because what you think plays a huge part in how your body is. You could almost negate pretty much anything else I've said. And if you take this one thing home, what you think matters. What you believe matters even more. Okay? Belief is key to health. I believe I fix people through thoughts, or I aid people. Let's say, let's just alter that slightly. I aid people in healing through thoughts. My thoughts are a energy pattern. Your thoughts are an energy pattern. Do they intermingle and make a better? Or do they intermingle and cancel something out, which might be equally good? Or do they intermingle and basically nothing happens? It's usually they intermingle and cancel something out, okay, which is good, okay, because it means sickness is cancelled, okay? Or they intermingle and you change your own thoughts and you're able to heal yourself. And that's how I work. I work on voltage. I use my brain, my thoughts, my energy signature, my energy patterns, my beliefs to help you change. You can do it yourself, but it might require some training. You can meditate, you can do Qigong, you can do exercise, you can eat the right foods, you can get a good amount of sunshine, you can drink the right water, you can do all the right things. If your subconscious and your conscious mind aren't on play, if they're not playing ball, then the other shit doesn't matter. Because the healthiest people in the world who do all the right stuff, they still get sick. I'm not saying I don't get sick. I was sick a couple of weeks ago. Felt ill for about a week. Happens. Because it's my belief that it happens. Okay, and my brain created it for whatever reason. Okay, I didn't dig around into it. I might have got better faster if I dug around into the reason why or looking for the reasons why I got sick. Okay, it's not until you start looking at your emotions and your beliefs, okay, when your mind and your subconscious mind can change, and then you change your voltage. Emotions, beliefs are key. Up here unlocks health. Doing some of the right things might help you change your beliefs. Think about it. I'm here if you need me. Monday to Friday, midday, I am doing meditations for cancer over on YouTube. Now, I'm trying to actually cancel cancer rather than I'm doing something for cancer, because that would be kind of nice for it and say, hey, guy, that's cool. I like you. Actually, I don't. My wife had cancer last year in 2020, just in case you're watching this in another year. And we went through, I'll say we, okay, she went through chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And we are now 9-10 months down the line after completing treatment, and there are consequences. Okay, not life-threatening, but they're freaking annoying, and they might well be going on for the next 50 or 60 years of my wife's life. And that's not fair, and that's not right, okay, because that was caused by the treatment. Okay, the treatment saved her life, probably, but it's caused a whole bunch of other stuff. So I'm attempting to bring as many people together as I can, and ideally in the future that's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. That would be amazing, to all come with the same intention at the same time. I'm going to be doing it Monday to Friday for now. Maybe in the future that changes into weekends as well, I don't know. But Monday to Friday, 12 p.m. at the moment, again, may change, subject to change, keep an eye out, for about half an hour, for people who have been diagnosed, who are undergoing treatment, and who have completed treatment. So those three groups of people, emotionally supporting them, mentally supporting them, and physically supporting them. Okay. Hopefully what you've seen in this video might help you believe me in the fact that meditation goddamn helps. The fourth reason is to open the world, open the medical world to new thoughts, looking at things from the past that may or may not have worked, alternative science, okay, different things that maybe kind of out there doctors have developed, whether it be herbal medicines, whether it be machines or whatever, that help people get better through different means, through frequency and voltage a lot of the time. Okay. It uses those kinds of technologies instead of what we're currently using, chemical and radiotherapy, X-rays, highly dangerous. We talked about this, although I might have deleted that. Don't know. We'll see if I deleted that bit or not. Okay. X-rays, high-powered energy waves that essentially try and kill cells. Okay, cool. Obviously, it works to an extent, but it causes other damage. So there's that kind of thing. We're looking for new and different, or old, with fewer side effects, treatments for people who've got cancer. I'm looking also to support friends and family of people who've got cancer as well, because they're going through a tough time. They might be looking after kids. They might be looking after the person who's sick. They might have to keep bringing in money, and they're working. They've got kids. They're looking after their partner who's ill. Okay, they might be doing it on their own. Okay? They might not have friends and family around, other friends and family around to help. They need help as well, mentally, emotionally, physically. Okay, they're going to need electrons, because trust me, their thoughts are fucking stressed. Stressful thoughts create tiredness, low energy, sickness. And we don't want the supporter to go downhill too. Finally, a collective consciousness effort. Now, you might not have heard of collective consciousness, but it's basically what the whole world thinks, okay? The whole history of humanity's consciousness, every thought that has ever existed, is in this field, okay? Is in this energy field. It's all recorded, it's out there. I want to decrease the amount of cancer that is in that collective consciousness, okay? I want the statistics on cancer decrease from 1 in 2 to 1 in 3 to 1 in 4 to 1 in 10 to 1 in 100 to fucked off. Gone. There was nearly a car crash out there. All right. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe, follow, whatever platform this might be on. Do the right thing. Share it with a friend. Tag them. Don't know. You might be on Instagram. You might be on Twitter. You might be on LinkedIn. Thanks for watching.